All right, hey YouTube, I'm back. This is going to be Hinduism part 2. All right, living spiritually in the everyday world. All right, so hold on, let me wipe my readers off. Okay, we finished with those elements of the Upanishads. Okay, or notions, I think that's more the proper word. Yeah, notions of the Upanishads. All right. And this project is going to be part 2. It is a lot in here that I will not go over. I'm just going over the basics like I've stated. And the reason being because, I don't think some of this is necessary to go over for, what I am setting out to do here. Okay. I mean, basically what I'm saying is like, this is not an extensive, study on Hinduism. I'm just going over all these religions and giving you the basics. Okay. All right. But if I feel the need at some point to go back and do that, I will, but not right now. All right. So living spiritually in the everyday world in Hinduism. Okay. Okay. The Hinduism that guides people's lives today is a mixture of elements. Some come from the early stages of religious practice, which we talked about it. Okay. And some things were developed later. All right. For the ordinary person or the ordinary lay person, Hindu practice involves devotion to at least one deity. All right. We know there are a lot of deities in Hinduism. All right. I'm not quite sure the number. Okay. But at least one deity. It recommends finding one's proper work and then doing it unselfishly. Okay. Like some people say, find your purpose. You know what I'm saying? You gotta find my purpose. Okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so basically that's what's being said. Okay, find your proper work and do it unselfishly. Okay, so your proper work or your purpose, in other words, it is not given to you just for you. Okay, it is for the benefit of yourself, but also the benefit of others. The practice may include the study of religious texts, meditation, and whatever other disciplines are a part of the religion. Okay. All right. Now let's go here. The following section we're going to get into is the Bhagavad-Gita. It deals with the elements of this practical synthesis. Okay. The practicality. How do I do this? Remember, we talked about those notions, and the one was moksha, which is freedom. How do we get to this place of freedom? What are we supposed to do? The Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita means divine song or song of the divine one. It is a part of a very long epic poem called the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata was written between 400 BCE, okay, before Christian era, and 400 CE, okay, tells how the sons of Pandavas conquered their cousins, okay, with the help of the god Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita was inserted into this long epic poem at some time, okay? But the Bhagavad Gita has its own identity. This was formed and shaped by the priestly class between 200 BCE and 200 CE, and it has become a spiritual classic. The Bhagavad Gita, I've been saying it wrong. Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so understand that it is a part of a long epic poem that was inserted later on, shaped by the priestly class, the priests, in other words. Okay, but it has become, a spiritual classic of its own. It tries to strike a balance between mysticism and the practical needs of everyday life. Okay, so the mysticism, okay, what it is, basically what it is, but then how do we apply this to everyday life, which is what we talked about yesterday. The Bhagavad Gita is written in dialogue form. Okay, it occurs between two figures, almost entirely between two figures: Arjuna, who is a prince, and his charioteer and advisor, Krishna. All right. Let me see. Arjuna's royal power is threatened by his cousins called the Kauravas, and he must decide whether to fight with his brothers against them or restore his throne to accept their rule. He is torn. On one hand, he knows that his rule is correct. On the other, he wants to avoid violence. His enemies are close family members. Okay, so that makes it even harder. But that goes to show you, look how long ago this was written. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Okay, for most of us, many of us understand and realize that throughout the world that our closest enemies are who? Our family. Okay. Depressed, Arjuna throws his arrows and his bow in the midst of the battlefield. He sits down on the seat of the chariot, and his heart is overcome with sorrow and responds, Krishna, who later reveals that he is a form of the god Vishnu. Now, isn't this interesting? Here, Krishna here is a god, but he is acting as this prince's servant, all right? But he reveals himself, okay, that he's a form of the god Vishnu, explains the need for action. In quotes, now you should hear how a man may become perfect if he... You're going to hear what you need to do, okay? How do you apply this to everyday life? Basically, okay? Now you shall hear how a man may become perfect if he devotes himself to the work which is natural to him. I like that. I'm going to underline this. This is a part that I really kind of skipped over in class, all right? Okay. Once again, now you should hear how a man may become perfect if he devotes himself to the work which is natural to him. We talked about that. Your purpose. Okay, devote yourself to your purpose, to who you are. Now, look, here's some answers right here. A man shall reach perfection if he does his duty as an act of worship to the Lord. Okay, what is your purpose? What, I can't say no more than that. What is your purpose? What are you here for? So on and so forth. Okay, this is your proper work. And here, the God Vishnu in the form of Krishna, who acted as a servant to this prince. Okay, what did he say? How do you become perfect? Do what it is that you are set here and destined to do. That is natural to you. So there's some couple of answers in there too. What is natural to you? Okay. If you're on a quest to figure out what is my purpose, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What is natural to you? Okay. That's it. Okay, or at least that's leading, understand that, and that will give you some indication, lead you down a path on the road to self-discovery. Okay, a man shall reach perfection if he does his duty as an act of worship to the Lord. Whatever it is that you are destined to do, or your purpose is, make sure that you do it here unselfishly and as an act of worship. Okay, to the Lord, okay, to the greater. This means that Arjuna must follow not merely his own desires, remember, to do it unselfishly, neither his fears nor his hope for reward, okay? Not about you, grandstanding, or, you being great and standing above all the people and all of that type of thing. No, okay? Not for reward, but also not out of fear. Okay, but he must simply do what is right, period. Just do what is right. Do what it is that you are called to do. Do what it is, what your purpose is. Okay, how do I know what my purpose is? What comes natural to you? Not that person over there, not that person over there. What comes natural to you? Do it unselfishly. Do it as an act of worship, to God. Do it without fear, okay, but without hope for reward, and in other words, and just do what's right. Okay, this is how you make these things applicable to everyday life. Contrary to the teaching of nonviolence, Krishna advises, contrary to the teaching of nonviolence, which was at the time of this epic's creation growing strong in India and such religious traditions as Buddhism and Jainism, Krishna advises Arjuna to protect his throne and the structure of society. To fight is his duty. Okay, so what was his advice to him? Protect your throne. That was, he was a prince. Okay, that probably came natural to him. All right, in his bloodline. Okay, so it was his duty to protect his throne and the society that him and his family undoubtedly, were over. Okay, in other words, that they served. Okay, it was his duty to protect his throne, to protect the society, to protect his family. To fight was his duty. All right. Here, this revelation, Krishna shows Arjuna that a divine reality is at work within everything in the universe. in living and also in dying. Krishna even says that for the warrior, there is nothing nobler than a righteous war. The recommendation that Arjuna should fight has posed a moral problem for some followers of Hinduism. All right. Mohandas Gandhi, 1869-1948, is typical of those who have solved this problem by saying that the Bhagavad-Gita is religious allegory. All right. Gandhi held that the call to arms is not about real war, but rather a call to fight against dangerous moral and psychological forces such as ignorance, selfishness, and anger, and very well possibly could be. Okay, I'm not here to debate whether he was right or wrong about his interpretation. This interpretation, though it seems to go against the literal intent of the text, has been influential. I feel like it could go both ways, but I am not a follower of Hinduism, nor was I born and bred as a Hindu, so I can't tell you the probabilities of what it is and what it isn't, based, from that perspective. All right, now let's go into the caste system. Hold on, I gotta get my coffee. All right, y'all, let's get back into this. All right, caste system. I still got my oat bread that I've been making. This I put raisins in it. I put some sea moss in it, flax, which I did the first time. I think that's the only difference. I started putting, I don't know if you could tell. I started putting peanut butter on top of it. Natural peanut butter. All right, but anyway. Let's move on. The caste system. Now, what we just talked about, the Bhagavad-Gita, this dialogue between Krishna, God Vishnu in the form of Krishna, and Arjuna, the prince. When Krishna urges Arjuna to do what his position as a warrior demands, which is to fight his cousins, that's giving them some problems here. Okay, it says here that he is reinforcing the caste system. What is the caste system? Okay, in India, the caste system is a division of society into social classes that are created by birth or occupation. The caste system, the prevalent social system of Hinduism, has already been mentioned in the Rig Veda. When they divided Purusha, the first person, the super being, remember who created, and how many different portions did they arrange him? What became of his mouth? What became of his 2 arms? What were his 2 thighs and his 2 feet called? His mouth became the Brahmin or the priest. His 2 arms were made into the Rajanya, the warrior noble. His 2 thighs, the Vaishyas, the merchants. From his 2 feet, the Sudra, the peasant, was born. Right. So we hear, okay, the caste system in play here, all right? The caste system receives further religious approval in the Bhagavad-Gita. Okay, so there's further approval here, okay, for this system, which recognizes that there are different types of people and that their ways to perfection will differ depending on their personality types and roles in society, right? Excuse me. Traditionally, the caste system was based on more than one type of work. Let me see. Let me go back. Okay. I'll read it again. The caste system receives further religious approval in the Bhagavad Gita, which recognizes that there are different types of people and that their ways to perfection will differ depending on their personality types and roles in society. For example, active people will perfect themselves through the unselfishness of their work, and intellectual people will perfect themselves through teaching and study. Traditionally, the caste system was based on more than one type of work. And in modern times, it does not always indicate the type of work a person does, all right? Castes, as the term is commonly used, are really social classes or varna. which are subdivided into hundreds of subcastes. Isn't that interesting? You got the caste, and then it's subdivided into hundreds of subcastes, more castes within the caste. The caste system dissuades members of different castes and often subcastes from intermarrying. All right. So if you're in one caste and someone else is in another, according to this, you're not gonna marry that person. Okay, it ain't about you love them and all the women. You're not even eligible. Okay, for marriage. Okay, with that person, you can forget it. Okay, and I don't even think that it would even necessarily be a thought. Okay, now we're talking about before Western thought process and culture. All right. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Okay, it remains the strongest in the country. Okay, so there's no intermarrying between castes. It remains strongest in the countryside and in more conservative southern India. Okay, and that makes sense. You tend to find more traditional things in the countryside of any place, okay, than you do in the cities. Here it is weakening in the cities, where people regularly eat together in restaurants and travel together in buses and trains. So people, that's why I say that you tend to find more traditional things, I feel like any place, even here in the States, okay, than you would find in the cities, because in the cities, people tend to intermingle with one another. All right, whether even if they're not talking, they still tend to intermingle, eating in the same restaurants, riding, same public transportation. However, okay, where you may not have that as much in the countryside. Okay, although an individual cannot change the caste into which she or he is born, okay, understand that as well. You cannot change the caste that you're born into. All right, okay. It is believed that a good life in one's present caste can guarantee rebirth, okay, in a higher caste or better circumstances. All right. So in your current life, no, there's not going to be any intermarrying with people of another caste, okay? And you're not bound to that particular caste in your next life. In your current life, whatever caste that you're born into, that's it. That's the caste that you're in. Okay, there's nothing you can do. You can't educate yourself out of it. There's nothing that marry yourself out of it. That's the caste that you were born into. Okay, I do remember that someone shared with me that the caste system, I believe in India, has been, kind of done away with. Okay, legally, is from my understanding. All right, I remember some students sharing that with me. And even though that might be the case, do you honestly think something that has been practiced over God knows how many thousands of years, all right, all of a sudden, just because somebody say, okay, we can't do this no more, that people are going to necessarily stop doing it? Not necessarily, okay? Think of everything that has gone into or has been built around the caste system. Okay, it's not just, I feel like it would take some time to undo that. Okay, not just in the minds of the people, but whatever cultural things were built around it, whatever laws were built around it, so on and so forth. Okay, let's see. So, okay, it's about, just like karma, it's not about what you do in your present life that's going to determine what's going to happen to you next week. What you did this week is going to happen to you next week. No, it is about from life to life. Same thing with the caste system. You could try and have, have a better life, so on and so forth, and do the right thing, so on and so forth, and whatever caste that you're born into, so that your next life, you don't come back. You can go to a better caste, be born into a better caste. Thus, from the perspective of Hinduism, upward social mobility is possible, but from lifetime to lifetime, not in your current lifetime. All right. All right. Members of society, are divided into 5 main social classes or castes. The first one is the priest or the Brahmin. They traditionally perform Vedic rituals and act as a counselor. That's the first one. Okay, so we're talking about the caste system. The second one, the warrior noble, Kshatriya, I believe is pronounced, has the role of protecting society, of course, the royal noble. This is the traditional caste of the aristocracy. The third, the merchant, Vaishya, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. This class includes landowners, moneylenders, and sometimes artisans. Excuse me. Okay. Males of the three upper castes, the Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, receive a sacred cord during a ceremony in their youth, and afterward are called twice born. Okay, interesting. Born again. Okay, I'm not saying it's the same thing, all right? I'm just talking about the terminology. The fourth caste is the peasant, or Sudra. The peasant does manual labor and is expected to serve the higher castes. The origin of this caste probably goes back to the Aryan subjection of native people. Mm-hmm. Sure, probably does. Okay. Who were forced to do the work of servants. Okay. The origin of this caste probably goes back to the Aryan subjection of native people, of the indigenous people, okay, of the people who was already there. That was their land, okay, who were born on that land, okay, who were forced to do the work of servants. This peasant is called once born. The fifth class is the untouchable, or the Dalit, traditionally does the dirtiest work. Cleaning toilets, sweeping streets, collecting animal carcasses, and tanning animal hides. Their low status prompted the Indian reformer Mohandas Gandhi to promote another name for the class, Harijan, or the children of God, and he urged their inclusion in regular society. Okay, we know too that often these classes, these separations, it was like we could see a skin color thing, okay? The colorism that was taking place. The Dalits, or the untouchables, were usually very darker skinned, and the higher the class, the lighter skinned the person. And me personally, undoubtedly, that took place too with this Aryan invasion and the subject, the subjection of the people, okay, when they came in, okay, because that tends to happen. And if you find that what I'm saying is not correct or wrong, okay, and you have some something scholarly, that I can read to say, oh, okay, fine, not just your opinion, okay, but it tends to be the problem, okay, as the blacks in America has found, this whole colorist thing, okay, issue that we still have today, but, she's called them the colonizers, okay, we find that in places that have been colonized, okay, by the European. Okay, then we find this whole thing with this colorist thing, okay, and those that are darker skinned kind of looked down upon as opposed to those who are lighter skinned or closer in complexion to their oppressor. All right. I used to show a video. This reminded me. I totally forgot. I haven't taught in the colleges in a long time, so there was a video I used to show. About Hinduism. It was a student, an English student, who had visited. It was some kind of research paper she had done, okay? And I do remember there was, she interacted, with people in their villages, in their homes and whatnot. And I remember there were those who were part of this untouchable class, and they went into a store. Now, the only reason they went was with her. Because if I remember correctly, they was telling her, we ain't about to go in there, because they knew their situation. They knew they were considered, not considered, that they were Dalit, okay, of the Dalit class, and they could not be. I don't know that they couldn't be, because they did go in there, but they knew that they were not welcome there. I'll put it like that. And we're not talking about no fancy store now, okay? We're not talking about in the cities. This was in the countryside. A store that many of us be like, I ain't going in there. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, I'm just joking, but seriously. But anyway, and those girls were so mistreated. They made them huddle like in the middle of the floor, while it was like they had clothes, they in a like plastic or whatever, while they threw the clothes at them, because they were literally untouchable. Okay, that's literally what what it says is what it means. All right. Okay, but let's move on. The stages of life. It was not a very it was a very sad situation. Not just that situation, just the whole everything. Man, if I maybe I have my notes. I might have a syllabus somewhere that I kept, maybe on disk or something. I mean, not disk, my flash drive or something. If I can find a syllabus, but it's been a long time. Okay, I will see if I can find it, and if I can, I'll put the link in the description. If you don't see a link, that means I just couldn't find it, because it's been a long time. All right, and I don't even remember the name of it, and I didn't find it off YouTube. There was a specific website, for professors of various topics, and that's where I found it. And it's, like I said, it's been a long time. Okay, so I can try it again. I can try and see if I can. I'll Google and see if I can find that website. If I can, I'll put the link in the comments. All right, so you can check it out. I mean, even her, she was an English woman. She had her preconceived notions and ideas and things that she said that just were like, I feel, and some of the students did too, completely inappropriate. But the film, the documentary she did it was good, and it gave some real insight into the life of many of the people there, and it was sad. It was really sad. It's like some of the things that I feel that we find so negative here in our society. I think even still, and I'm only saying this because I was talking to a student, at the last school that I was subbing at, a high school student, a senior, and he was from Nigeria. We were just having a conversation about, the differences in, here in America. He lived in the UK and other places, and he's just like the most negative things that you all have here. It's like you all blow them out of proportion. He said you have no clue how really bad it is, in other parts of the world, And I've traveled a little bit. I mean, I went to Israel. I went to Egypt. I mean, Cairo was, whew. Okay. Well, I didn't experience that type of, I don't know what the word is. What am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? That type of, I can't think of the word right now, and it's like on the tip of my tongue. This always happens, and then when I get off the video, I'm like, okay, that's the word. But anyway, that type of what I experienced in Cairo in terms of how it looked, and the poverty and the filth. I mean, it was just like never ending. Cairo, if you've never been there, it's huge. It was just huge. It was like, I was like, New York City has nothing on this, and I used to live in New York City. Okay. But anyway, I didn't find that in Israel. Okay. But moving on. Okay. The stages of life. I was just saying that to say in the video, it was very, I don't want to say depressing. I mean, maybe you could say depressing, but it just was eye-opening. I'll put it like that. Just as the individual's, okay, here we are, the stages of life. Just as the individual's path to correct action is suggested by caste and subcaste, okay? Traditional Hinduism holds that each stage of life also has its proper way of being lived. So each stage of life has its proper way of being lived, okay? Every culture recognizes specific life stages through which each individual passes. In modern secular life, okay, the stages seem to be childhood, adolescence, the career years, and retirement. In other words, in modern secular life, in Western culture, okay, That's what's being said. Okay. But these stages are strongly colored by employment or lack of it. Damn sure is. Okay. I've been seeing a lot of things lately about, millennials and people quitting their jobs. It's like, I've had some interesting conversations with people lately about that. I'm Generation X. Is that, yeah, Generation X. And it's like the things that I feel that we were taught in terms of employment or that may have been expected of us was like what our parents did. You know what I'm saying? Or what was expected of them. But hence, they may have felt that as Black Americans, we may have had more opportunities than they did. And it just didn't happen like that. Things changed, but it wasn't just in one area. When things change, they change, So here we have the internet and a little computer in your hand and apps where you can go out there and, drive and pick up food for people and deliver it, I'm saying, okay, taxi services that probably don't went out of business because all you got to do, you don't see too many of them is get you an Uber or whatnot. I mean, it's just, there has been a change. I mean, I do, DoorDash every now and then, and it's very easy. Sometimes my daughter comes with me. I pick up the food. She takes it to the person's, puts it on their porch, whatever the case may be. And I've met people my age, who just like, I quit my job and I'm just doing this full time, okay? And they're not doing too bad either. People's idea of this whole employment thing, I feel like here in the States is changing, okay? And this is just so true, okay? These stages, childhood, adolescence, the career years. Look at how that's defined. Look at how our humanity is defined here in the stages of life, okay? Are colored by employment or lack of it. I mean, when a person don't have a job or whatever, they get made fun of or talked about, you lazy, blah, 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 this, that, and other. They just live out to say whatever, okay? It's not very, so much is, defined by whether, you have a job or not, whether you are employed or not, okay? And just not realizing some people choose not to be. Maybe they don't want to go out there and, and give their whole being to a job. And I'm not talking about versus having your own business. That's not for everybody either, okay? Everybody need not do that. It's funny sometimes when I hear people talk about it, why should I work a job? They're pushing this entrepreneurship thing, okay? But somebody, if you're an entrepreneur, you can't do it all by yourself. Somebody got to work for you. So is it for everybody to be an entrepreneur? That don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Everybody be an entrepreneur, unless maybe it's just like another stream of income, all right? But being an entrepreneur is often takes a whole lot more work than it does to just, get yourself together and go sit at somebody's damn desk or whatever the job entails, for 8 hours a day. Some people like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think people should be shamed into wanting to be employed, and wanting to work, yes, for someone else, okay? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, depending on what your business is and how you want it to grow. And I think you would want it to grow so that you make some kind of profit. You may need to employ people, okay? But anyway, let's keep on going. But in India, the notion of life stages are more religious. Okay, I feel like that's probably more in tune with your humanity. Let's look at them. Okay, the conception, was shaped by the ancient idea of development of the upper caste male. Okay, particularly of the priestly class. Okay, so let's see. First, we have the student. Okay, the first stage is spent laying a religious foundation for life. Okay. The young person between the ages of 8 and 20 studies religious works. Okay, and remember, religion is your culture. So they're really learning about their culture, okay? And, the importance of it, who we are as a people, what we put together, what gods we believe, how we believe the world came to be, et cetera, et cetera. Celibacy is a necessary part of the training. The second is householder or marriage, okay? This is traditionally arranged by parents, all right? It occurs at about age 20. The person fulfills the demands of society by raising children. I remember, I think I said on one video, I was watching a documentary. This was years ago. I was very young, about communities and cultures where marriages were arranged, and they really didn't have divorce, okay, or them separating, probably very little, and they were just saying how they the people, the couples, they know each other, but they got married, but they grew to love one another, okay, and they seem to be long. They did it kind of a versus the way we do it here, in the West, where they're not arranged, okay, and it was very different. The divorce rate was high, but in the West, whereas opposed to many of these communities, there either was no divorce rate or it was very low. All right, so I asked my mom, I was like, I want you to do that for me, go find me someone to marry. She said, girl, you don't want me to do that. I said, yes, I do. I'm going to let you pick the person for me. And the first person she said, I was like, nope. And she said, so you don't want me? I was like, Ma, please. First of all, I don't think that he liked women. Okay. And you just picking him because he's your best friend's son from when you was like 20, 30 years ago. Stop. All right. And she's like, you don't want me to do it then. I kept trying to get her to do it after that every now and then. And she wouldn't. But anyway, all right. And, I don't know. I just thought, I listening to the documentary, I really thought that would be a viable thing for me. Okay. I thought, that sounds fucking awesome. Okay. But looking at it now, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, I'm thinking like back then, if I actually had have done that, if that actually would have happened, which it wouldn't have, would I have, would it have been a marriage that lasted? You understand what I'm saying? Would I have had the maturity? And I'm saying that not so much based off of me, Kenyatta. I'm saying that based off the fact that I'm Western born, bred, and raised. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right. But anyway, I got to check the time. Keep up with the time. I got to go get my baby in a few. All right. The third one is retiree. When grandchildren arrive, the individual may retire somewhat from ordinary life to spend time once again on religious matters. All right. Now they're free. Maybe not in the West. Grandparents is raising their grandchildren here. Now let me quit. But anyway, it's true. You know what I'm saying? Grandparents can't be grandparents, all right? But when grandchildren arrive, the individual may retire, so, somewhat from ordinary life, so now I can go back to my religious studies. I done did my part. I done raised it. I contributed to the society. I done sent the children out there, taught them, this religious thing, this cultural thing. You understand what I'm saying? So they can be viable members of the society. Now it is my time. Let me go pick up my religious book, okay? We can see that religion here is very part and parcel of the Indian culture, the Hindu culture, okay? The ancient idea was to go into the forest to live, possibly with one's wife, away from society. Honey, let me tell you something. I understand that is a dream of mine, okay? To go live in a log cabin somewhere out in the forest. It really is, okay? Hopefully with a partner, okay? I don't want to be out there by myself, but that is a dream of mine. I've been had that dream for quite a few years now, all right? Especially after I studied with the African Hebrew Israelites. Listen, I was very much a city girl, okay? And when I studied with the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, and I went to Israel, and it was so fucking peaceful, okay? Now, I'm not saying that community didn't have its issues and problems. Of course it did. You can find shit on YouTube about that, okay? But it was just a very peaceful, environment. It was calm, now definitely over in Israel, they were doing a lot of things from scratch. Okay. Wasn't no like here. Okay. We bought our syrup. We bought our potato chips, whatever. They had to make a lot of things from scratch. You want some potato chips, you better cut up them potatoes and make you some potato chips, okay? Not fries, potato fries, okay? I even remember one sister from Cleveland. She was a young girl. Me and her had joined the community at the same time. She was a young girl. And she got very much became very much a part of the community, okay? I think she just loved it. And she was over in Israel for a long time. So when I went to visit, she was there. She was making the syrup from scratch, okay? I think it was apple syrup or some boiling the apples and everything, And I just liked it. I really did. I liked it. It was calming. It was soothing. It was peaceful. But I do love city life too, still to this day. Don't get me wrong. I do. I always had a dream where I wanted to, I wanted to live somewhere peaceful, honey, from away from the hustle and bustle, but not too far from the city, so I can go there, drive there at any time, because I do love city life. All right. I love it's just so diverse. Okay. I'm not talking about here where I'm at in this city. You can get mad at me if you want, if you're from here. It's the truth, okay? But I just love the diversity, the culture, different cultures, different foods, different music, people, just the different styles of dress. I love that. Like, oh my God, that was one reason why I love DC. Although culturally it was a lot of Black culture, but from various parts of the world, not just, here in America. I loved New York when I lived in New York, but it was so fast, it was so big, and I was not there for no super long period of time, so it was a lot that I didn't, although I had been there a couple times before. It was just, it takes a while, as my dad used to say, to do New York, all of New York and the boroughs and everything, so it was just a lot going on there. Parts of Atlanta, I can't say all of Atlanta, but parts of Atlanta when I was there. I just love the diversity and the various cultures and music and of all different peoples, all different worlds and stuff. I really like that. So I just wanted to be able to, go to the city and enjoy the city, buy some things, various kinds of foods and clothes and jewelry and music and just talk to whoever, because I am one of the type of people, I talk to whoever. I like people, I have talked to, from the pimps to prostitutes in DC all the way to the Catholic priests over the Diocese of Cleveland. Okay. I said over the Diocese of Cleveland to world-class and world-known theologians. This is just how I am, because I feel like people are people, and I just love people, and I like to talk to people. And so that was something that a desire I always had, at, a point in my life. All right, but let me get back to this. The ancient idea was to go into the forest to live, possibly with one's wife, away from society. In reality, retirees often continue to live with their children and with other relatives in an extended family setting, but they may eat separately from the rest of the family and spend time on religious pursuits and friends. And I think that's wonderful. I just think, we are so individualized here in the West. You know what I mean? You going over in your house, I go over, and it's one person occupying a whole house, or maybe two people occupying a whole house, mother and child, okay, because we got a lot of single parent families in the world, okay, and then, and grandma by herself over in a whole nother house. And it's like, really you all can live together. Find a way, because for example, my mom, okay, she doesn't live here in the city I'm in anymore, okay. I felt abandoned when she left. I did, but it is what it is. Okay, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother video, all right, or a book. But anyway, she was very helpful with me, with my daughter, okay? Her father, I ain't gonna say her father was helpful. Her father did what a father's supposed to do, but he was a father to my child, but to his child, what am I saying? But she was very helpful, if I had to, depending on my job, depending on my schedule, my class schedule, whatnot. She was always there to pick her up, have food for her, et cetera, okay? And it's just the benefit, I tried to get it to live together, but she wasn't going for it, and we have different lifestyles, but of course we have a different mindset here in the West, than we do in, what is that? Oh, okay. Than we do in, than we see here in some other parts of the world where families, extended families live together. Okay. I mean, we have to all have to share the same space, but there are benefits to it. I feel like it is to help one another out. Now, people gonna get on your nerve. That's just natural. I don't think you can have a relationship in any way, shape, or form with anybody at any time where there's not going to be maybe some kind of minor conflictual something. I'm not saying conflict. I'm not saying it's got to be major or anything like that. Well, you might just disagree, or you see things differently, and this damn sure comes about when you're living, with another person. But I just feel like that's a beautiful thing personally. That was something that I wanted to do. Now, would I have been able to do it realistically? I don't know. I'm kind of laid back about stuff. You might get on my nerve. I just go in my room, mind my business, go somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? Same for you. I get on your nerve, you just go, But we're here to, help with one another. That was kind of the beautiful thing when I did study with the African Hebrew Israelites. That was kind of a beautiful thing about that. Okay, it didn't always work out that way because even though we were living communally, it's not like we were family in the sense of blood family where we knew each other all our lives. I mean, in a great sense, we were strangers to one another. Who knows how long you sat around the community before you got absorbed in, and then it's just like, okay, here, go live in one of the, homes communally, And I didn't personally, I didn't do it right away, but I did do it. I didn't know them. I feel like that's different than if it's with people that I grew up with that I've known all my life. You understand what I'm saying? Because we kind of know each other. And then, a lot of times you really don't know each other. You think you do, or you learn more about one another, Okay, but anyway, let's keep on going. And then the last one is a renunciate, okay? To enter this last stage to enter this last stage is considered to be appropriate only after retirement, okay? It is not expected of everyone, but it is an option. If you want to live completely free from society, you can leave home, okay? For this person, now the entire world is home. A man may leave his wife, but he has to make sure she's going to be taken care of, okay? You just don't just walk up out the door. I'm going to be renunciating. You're on your own. No, you still her husband. You got to take care of her, make sure everything's going to be straight, okay? Celibacy is expected. And so it ain't about you just going out there, You just gonna, freak out. All right, no, you ain't having sex, okay? The sign of this, celibacy is expected, and the sign of this devout celibate stage is an orange robe. Okay, and this something, okay? This renunciate is also called, the word is called sannyasin. The sannyasin considered to be outside the caste system. Okay, I guess at this point they can be outside the caste system. They're free to wander. They beg for food along the way, and we're going to see that when we get into Buddhism. I know we may look at that like, ooh, big, that, go home somewhere, do something with yourself, get a job, etc., etc. No, but this is part of being a renunciate. They know that you're a renunciate. You got your orange robe on. You're past the age of retirement. Okay, and people. They'll help you along the way. All right. Many temples have endowments to feed such pilgrims. Okay, so these are, let me finish reading. The sannyasin may remain a constant traveler, making pilgrimage to the sacred sites of India, or he may settle in an ashram, which is a religious community, or even live in a cave. The purpose of this kind of life is to hasten mystical insight. Okay, to free oneself of all attachments, to end rebirth, and to attain moksha. So, you might look at them, okay, they're big and whatnot. Well, they're on a mission, okay, and the community knows and understands that mission, so they are in support of this, this person on this mission, because I feel like it takes a lot of courage to do this, and this is not something that a person has to do, as we saw. Okay, this is something that is an option. Now let's look here. The goals of life. Although the Hindu spiritual ideal, such as the lifestyle of the sannyasin, is generally world-denying. The spiritual idea is world-denying. It also exhibits a respect for more worldly goals. World denying, but yeah, we will respect you if you've got some worldly goals here in Hinduism. In order of increasing value, these goals are pleasure, economic security and power, artha, and social and religious duty, dharma. Okay, but that always comes up here, this social and religious duty, this religious duty is duty to your culture. Okay, these life goals, which may be pursued simultaneously, are acceptable and even virtuous as long as they are tempered by moderation and social regulation. Considered highest of the goals, however, is moksha, complete freedom. That's considered the highest of the. So as we can see, it takes some work, okay, to achieve. Okay, it takes some work. All right. Okay, and that human stage with okay, a reincarnation, that's dangerous. You may not remember your last life. Think about it. Say you are born into, some terrible circumstances. Maybe one of the untouchable. You're born into the untouchable caste, terrible circumstances. Okay. I mean, you may hear even people say things like, I've heard this, okay? And I feel like it kind of falls into this idea where you may see somebody who is maybe disabled or something like that, okay? From this perspective here, it could be said, well, what they do in their last life. Okay. And I'm not saying that the idea is that you should not have compassion for the person, okay? But I'm just saying from this ideal perspective, it could simply be what did you they must have had a terrible, not had a terrible last life. No, they might have been hell on wheels in their last life. Okay? They might have been a motherfucker in their last life. Okay, they might have been no good and were mean and evil and mistreated people. Okay, but what if they were wealthy and denied people? They could have been, I don't know, maybe a wealthy politician in their last life or whatever. And had it set up so, that people were poor and starving. And I mean, just all kind of, scenarios here. Okay. So that's kind of the thought process too. That's just some karma on their ass. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. This from what I'm reading here. Okay. Now, we may look at that, oh, that ain't right, but this is karma here. All right. And remember, karma is life to life, not what happens in your present life. And what you do in your present life is going to determine. Okay. Now you would think, right, if you knew that, okay, let's say you were born into some, unfavorable circumstances, right? Okay. You're born in some unfavorable circumstances. You don't want to be in that situation your next life. Now you just got to live that shit out, okay, in your present life. Oh well, you just got to live that shit out. It is what it is, okay? You got to live that shit out in your present life, okay? But you don't want to come back in your next life. You don't want this to be the situation in your next life because first of all, you don't want that situation. You don't want it in your current life, but you damn sure don't want it in your next life. And you're going to have a next life because that ain't the situation you're supposed to be in to get to this moksha. You're trying to get there to complete freedom. All right. Unless, I guess it depends on, we saw how moksha is determined. But I don't know what makes that final determination. Okay. It might be here in the book and I just never got to it. Maybe it's just you and what you do in your life. But what I'm basically trying to say is you may be born into that particular life with these unfavorable circumstances or whatnot. It may not be that easy to make sure that you are going to be whatever it is that you need to be, to go higher in your next life, to reach that. It's dangerous. Like I said, it's a danger. Or you could be born into great circumstances. but maybe find yourself so ego, driven by your ego because of these wonderful circumstances that you are born into. You may look down on others. You get what I'm saying? The human, the limitations of being a human. Okay, as it's stated before, and in that particular lifetime, trying to work to get to the understanding that, we are all one, all is God. You understand what I'm saying? Like we went over in the last video, okay, of Hinduism. That's something. That's something. To work to get over the human ego, okay, and come to an understanding that all is God. That may take many lifetimes to get to that place, okay, as opposed to, just one. All right. The yogas, what time is it? 5:54. Yoga. The yogas here. All right. Although the Bhagavad-Gita endorses quiet contemplation, it commends active spiritual paths. It recommends active spiritual paths. It endorses meditation and the work demanded by one's caste and individual place in society. Okay, so, you got to, whatever your caste demand that you do, that's what you got to do. Okay, if you want this complete freedom. Now, the various types of yoga are methods that can be used to help people live spiritually. The word yoga means union, okay, and is related to the English words join and yoke, just like what we talked about religion, okay, to join again, to join, okay, read though. A yoga is a way for people to perfect their union with the divine, and because the yoga suggests roads to perfection, they are also called margas or paths. Okay. The yogas suggest roads to perfection. There is tolerant recognition in Hinduism that different sorts of people need different spiritual paths, okay? And an individual's caste and personality type will help determine the appropriate yoga for them to practice. All right. We have, I don't know if the J is silent. It may be Jnana Yoga or Nana Yoga, which is knowledge yoga. This type of yoga brings insight into one's divine nature. How? Study the Upanishads, the Bhagavad-Gita, the commentaries, learn from teachers who have attained insight. This is for the priests and for the intellectuals. All right. Let me see. Karma Yoga. This is action yoga. This proposes that all useful work, if done unselfishly, can be a way to perfection. Work is a way to perfection. Okay. Here, it is used in its basic sense of activity. Okay. Much of what we do is motivated by money or pleasure or praise. But these performed without a desire for reward are the heart of karma yoga. Okay. Not looking for the pleasure, the pain, the money, etc. Okay, as the Bhagavad-Gita says, desire for the fruits of work must never be your motive in working. Okay, you don't work just to obtain something, to attain something. No. Okay. Remember, as it was stated earlier, as Krishna and Vishnu in the form of Krishna said to Arjuna, you do it, as worship to the Lord. Okay, Bhakti Yoga or devotion yoga. Most of us have at one time or another fallen in love, and we know there is something purifying about the experience because it forces us to look outward. It forces us to look beyond ourselves to another object of affection. Religions utilize this purifying power when they promote devotion to a god or saint who is often made visible in a painting or statue. Because of its belief in multiple gods, Hinduism offers rich possibilities for devotion. Krishna tells Arjuna, regard me as your dearest loved one. Know me to be your only refuge. Okay, and then we have Bhakti Yoga. Okay, Bhakti Yoga can extend also to acts of devotion shown to one's guru, spiritual teacher, to one's parents, and to one's spouse. The gods worship in Bhakti Yoga will be described later. We have Raja Yoga. This promotes meditation. We have Hatha Yoga. Okay. Most of us in the West, this is what we think of when we think of yoga. Hatha yoga, we think of physical exercises. Okay, that's Hatha yoga. That's just one type. These were originally developed to help make long periods of meditation easier. Mostly involve stretching and balancing. Breathing exercises are usually considered a path of Hatha yoga. There are many schools of Hatha yoga, often named after their founders. Several have gained popularity, all right, etc., etc. Okay, we also are familiar with Bikram yoga, which involves a series of 26 Hatha yoga exercises, 2 breathing exercises in a heated room. Ashtanga yoga, named after the teachings of the Yoga Sutras. Okay, this is more athletic yogic postures. Kundalini Yoga. This combines the elements of Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Remember, Raja is meditation. The Hatha Yoga are these physical exercises. This teaches that there are 7 psychic centers. What are these 7 psychic centers? Also called the Chakras. My daughter says they pronounce it Chakras. The Chakras, okay, or wheels that exist one above the other along the spinal column. Meditation and physical exercises, as described below, help the mediator lift spiritual energy called Kundalini and envisioned as a coiled serpent from one center to the next. Literally, Kundalini means, okay, she who lies coiled. Each chakra is a gateway through which the Kundalini passes, bringing increased insight and joy. When it reaches the topmost and 7th center of energy at the crown of the head, the practitioner experiences profound bliss. The topmost center of energy appears in imagery as a lotus flower, and its reaching is compared to the opening of the lotus. Okay. In addition to these 6 yogas, there are others. In fact, any systematic set of techniques that lead to greater spirituality can be considered yoga. Now, when I made my first video, I think it was the first one, okay, or the second one, I talked about there was a Christian. He was the president or vice president of some seminary. He had an article on the internet. This was years ago. Okay, my daughter was in kindergarten, so that was about 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. That Christians ought not be practicing yoga. Okay, and there were some Christians who were upset about that. All right, understandably so that they were upset about it, but also I feel like they were upset because they did not understand necessarily what yoga was. Okay, yoga is more than just this set here of exercises. Okay, that we find in Hatha yoga. Okay, it means union once again, just like we said. Okay, it is a way for people to perfect their union with the divine. Okay, yoga suggests road to perfection. We said that already. Okay, understand that in the tenets of Christianity, okay, you cannot become, okay, like yoga, from my understanding as well, yoga, union with the divine, becoming one, basically union with the divine, okay? In the tenets of Christianity, you cannot become one with God, okay? I'm not telling you, I'm not talking about what the Bible may say, okay? In Christianity, it would be, blasphemous to say that we are God. Just talked about that. But at the same time, in the Bible, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, there are 2 scriptures that say, ye are gods. Okay. Now, undoubtedly, there are someone, could explain that away. Okay. Or say from, who know the tenets of Christianity. All right. I don't mean the pastor at the local church. I mean, maybe, the bishop of some kind of Catholic church. The Pope. Okay. And understand that Protestant Catholicism is Christianity. I know that many of us were taught that it was not. We ain't doing Christianity right now. I'm just trying to explain what the man was saying and why he was saying it. Okay. Protestant Christianity is Catholics in protest, okay, or those in protest of the Catholic Church, Protestant, okay. So, but what I'm saying here is, according to the tenets of Christianity, you do not become one with God, okay. And how do you reach anything, okay? Yoga suggests roads to perfection. Wait a minute, let me see. Remember, Hinduism, there's tolerance in Hinduism. Okay, remember when we talked about, I think that might be in the first video too, where we talked about inclusive and exclusive religions. Hinduism would be an inclusive religion. Here it states it right here. There is a tolerant recognition in Hinduism that different sorts of people need different spiritual paths. They would be inclusive, meaning that as far as Hinduism is concerned, you can be a Hindu and practice other religious faiths. Then you have exclusive religions. Christianity is an exclusive religion according to the tenets, teachings of Christianity. You cannot be a Christian and practice any other religion, okay? Any other religious faith. You cannot be a Christian and practice Hinduism, okay? I'm not talking about my personal opinion, okay? I am talking about the tenets and the teachings of these particular faiths and religion, all right? Let's see. Okay, so in Christianity, you're not going to have different spiritual paths. There's one, period. Okay, and I'm not talking about, I know we have different denominations. We have different denominations in Christianity. You may have different denominations, but the basic teachings and tenets of all of those different denominations are the same. There are some other things that may differ, things that do not, mess with the teaching. Now, as far as Catholicism and Protestant Christianity is concerned, yes, there are some differences, but understand that Protestantism is, again, like I said, Catholics and protests of the Catholic Church. It's teachings of those who came through and had problems with things that were happening in Catholicism or whatever, and were protesting the Catholic Church and started their own branch of Christianity. Okay, that's the history. We'll go over that when we get to Christianity. All right. That's why it's called Protestantism. What is the root word? Protest. Those that are in protest of the Catholic Church, of the Christian Church. Okay. Okay, but so even though you may have different denominations, what you mean different denominations? Okay, in the Protestant Church, you may have your Pentecostals, the Apostolics, Baptists, Methodists. Those are different denominations, still falling under the same religion, under the same faith, Christianity. There may be some differences in maybe some of their creeds or something like that, or we don't believe in baptizing babies, and we in this church we got to baptize them when they're 12, things like that. But the basic foundational teachings and tenets are the same. Okay, so in Christianity there is only one spiritual path. You can't become one with God in Christianity. This is their teaching. I'm not saying they right or wrong, I'm saying that this is what they teach. Okay, there's only one spiritual path. Okay, to God. Okay. And it ain't got nothing to do with yoga, okay, or any kind of meditation or any kind of exercise or anything like that, okay. And we'll go over it when we get there. Okay. So this is why he said that. Wasn't necessarily him saying, "Oh, I got a problem. I'm prejudiced. I don't like Hinduism." No, Hinduism, or I don't like yoga, because there's some people who practice yoga and don't know where it come from. They just think it's just an exercise. Okay, it's just another form of exercise, like running, swimming, jumping, or whatever, because they're practicing this hatha yoga. Okay, and this hatha yoga, it's to help with meditation. Okay, from the Raja Yoga. Okay, combining these things. You know what I'm gonna do? I gotta get ready to go to pick up my daughter. But what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna pause this, okay, or just combine it like I did yesterday, and I'm gonna read each yoga thing. Okay, each paragraph. Each section is what I'm trying to say. So just so we have a little bit more, because I just gave like just read one or two sentences out of the section. Okay, I am not saying I am teaching. I am not saying anything is wrong with yoga. So before anybody says yoga bad, no. Okay, I'm teaching you differences, okay, in these religions. Comparative. We're doing some comparative. And while we may hear things like that, like a person like that, okay, who is holds his doctorate, his PhD in religious studies. Okay, I think that's what it was in. Okay, and is the vice president of a seminary. A seminary is a school. It's Christian oriented. Okay, it is not religions of all the world oriented, but seminary is Christian oriented. Okay, and he was telling the absolute truth. He knows the tenets of his faith, of his religion. Many people don't know the tenets of whatever it is that they follow. They may sit in church every Sunday and really don't know. You understand what I'm saying? I had one student tell me that I'm a Christian, I go to church. That don't have nothing to do with being a Christian. It doesn't. That's not what Christianity is. So she sat in class, she listened, and then she learned. And some things she had an issue with, but she didn't know that. You understand what I'm saying? All right? And it ain't just in Christianity that happens either. Okay? All right? But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read these specifically. All right? Each section. But right now, I'm about to take a break before I have to go get my daughter. And I shall return. Okay? All right. Peace.